my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I sound like Little Orphan Annie in that movie. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. I just made a trip 2 flights up from the kitchen. Had to get some coffee, bunch of water, and make my way up to my attic just below the roof. You know, that's where I hang out here in the attic. I've been hanging out here for 3 years. Yes, they let me out for coffee and to grab a sandwich or two once in a while. But for the most part, I'm stowed away up in the attic. Just kidding, everybody. But listen, this is where we do the show. I was talking with my wife just the other day, and I said, I really want to trick out the attic. I really want to turn it into a high quality studio. So it could be Philanthropy and Focus in Focus Productions from the top of my house, just below the roof. Just really making it a big deal. So, and then maybe when I always say, hey, come join me, on the show, you can actually join me in the attic one day. Maybe I will have folks come to the attic and you can do the show live in the attic. Anyway, look, let's talk about Focus. This show is Philanthropy in Focus. And every single week, I bring another leader of a nonprofit on the program to help them tell their story and amplify their message. And that's what happens when you're a nonprofit sector connector or the nonprofit sector connector, because I don't think there are multiple. I said a nonprofit sector connector. I don't know if there's other ones. I think I am the one. I made up the name. So it's funny. My buddy Scott Horowitz, shout out to Scott at TD Bank. We did a day of service with Long Island Coalition for the Homeless last a couple weeks back. And Scott made an email introduction for me. And the email, the subject line was nonprofit sectoring connectoring, or it's something to that effect. And I said, I guess this is really a brand. I want to talk about Focus for a second. I Googled something right quick before we got started, because I think it's going to be a nice way to start my conversation with Bill Schul today, who's here from Venture Foundation. And what you focus on grows. What you focus on grows. And I wonder if we, as a society, could focus on our abilities, accentuate what we're good at, accentuate the positive. There was an old song, accentuate the positive, something like that, right? Ba, 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 ba. But think about that. If we could get our focus off of where our shortcomings are, our disabilities, things we're not good at, because I tell you here, sort of tongue in cheek, sort of self-deprecating, but there's a lot of things I'm not good at. But there's a handful of things, like 4 that I'm really freaking good at. And I just want to do those as much as I can. And the things that I'm not good at, I'll try to get better if I choose to. But if not, I'm just going to have people around me that are really good in that. And that's their flow state. And that's their zone of genius. Let them do that. For instance, I'm not doing the production work. Dylan Nelson's doing the production work here on the show, because that's what it's like his zone of genius, where my zone of genius is talking to people, asking inquisitive questions, and acting a little bit like a clown sometimes. So here he is. Here comes the clown. But look, it's all about, I say that because I want to set the stage when we think of people, as we say, with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I think of horseability. Okay. I think of the Spirit of Huntington Arts Center, both of those organizations where I'm a board of directors member. I think of what we're doing is giving folks an opportunity to find out what they're really good at, whether they're not good at other things or they don't have abilities in other areas. We must all focus on that, because I bet if you schooled a bunch of folks who are quote unquote neurotypical and you try to see things that they are not good at, and we talked about all those things, they wouldn't be successful if we focus there. So focus on what you're good at. And that's where I want to kind of start this conversation, because something we said in our little virtual green room, Bill, was what made me start to think about that and think about the focus on abilities versus the focus on inability or disability. So Bill Schul is here, Chief Executive Officer, Executive Director of Venture Foundation. Got to make one shout out, even before Bill jumps into the conversation with me. If it wasn't for my relationships, if it wasn't for Mike Stager of Stager Law Firm, Mike does patent law and trademark. He's a trademark attorney, does patent work. If you ever need somebody, reach out to Mike Stager, law offices of Mike Stager. And if you can't find him, reach out to me, TommyD.NYC on the Instagram and all over the place. And then always the email, TommyD@philanthropyandfocus.com, PHOCUS. Bill Schul, I'm glad to have met you. You got a big smile. I'm going to have a bigger smile. I'm feeling your energy. My brother, how are you this morning?
I'm really good. It's so great to hear someone with such passion for an industry that I think really needs it and puts the focus, no pun intended, where it really belongs. And we call ourselves a foundation that's on a journey of joy, because that's what we want to help them do, is reach that pinnacle where they are living and having as good a life as anyone else does.
Everybody deserves it, right? Everybody deserves it. It's one of the things that I sort of get up on my soapbox, a little bit of pissed off for greatness, as I say sometimes, because there's so much opportunity for people. What the challenge, I think, in a lot of ways is accessibility, and it's making things accessible for people who may not have access to an opportunity. So like I always do on this show, Bill, you and I just talked about it before we got started. It's going to be about who is Bill? Who is Venture Foundation? How did you get connected to this work, the programs, the work you've done? The organization's been around over 40 years, so that's a special situation. So, I mean, even our industry, if I could say our being part of it, nonprofit, but specifically serving the population we're going to talk about today, that's evolved. You know, the vernacular, certainly I'm glad we got rid of a lot of words we used to use to discuss our population. Because I'll be straight with you, man. We're all just human beings trying to be on this journey of joy. Isn't that what it is? I was blessed for 31 years to have my cousin Linda Cunningham in our life. And I always, Linda had at the time special needs, we would refer to it. But Linda, I always used to say Linda just missed it. She just missed it because she worked at Stop and Shop. She worked at CVS. She was bowling 2 or 3 nights a week. And we were blessed to have Linda in our lives. And I think it made us more sensitive, more concerned to have these types of conversations over my whole lifetime. We didn't necessarily look at Linda as being all that different, to be honest with you, as we were growing up. And I'll tell you, my aunt and uncle held her the same level of accountability as their 3 other children. So that's sort of how that went down. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you got connected to this work in this 40-year journey. Were you involved with the organization from inception? Let's tell me about that stuff.
Sure. How it really starts for me is Camp Venture. Venture was an idea of parents, a mother bears, I call them. Others call them that as well. Not with my kid, you don't. Kind of a thing. And there's a lot, this is in the 70s, and this is around the country. I think New York was a bit of a leader in that. And I'm in Rockland. I lived on Long Island for a long time. I was a Lynbrook guy.
Oh, no kidding.
I grew up in Queens.
I grew up in Franklin Square, so I know Lynbrook very, very well. Next
there you go. There you go. Yeah. My brother still lives there. So Venture was a camp because they didn't have anything to do with in the summer. That evolved into, and they got the land because the state gave them loaned them this, and they used public parks and things like that. And slowly they got gifts of houses and stuff. And in 1972 or 3, if you remember, the concert by John Lennon and Yoko Ono was right on the heels of the expose that was done by Geraldo Rivera in Willowbrook in Staten Island.
So about 2 weeks ago, Bill, I had Mike Billia from Life's Work on my show. You know, Vicky Schnapp's founder of Life's Work, very good friends with Geraldo. In fact, you know, I'm building a very strong relationship with Life's Work, so very familiar with Willowbrook and the whole thing. Sorry to cut you off, but like, just
no, please, it's quite right.
Yeah, that's it.
The whole flow of this goes, but no one cared, no one knew, and the mothers and the fathers and their friends were helping to make lives for these people that were sitting in the corner of some institution curled up in a ball. There's way too many pictures on this stuff. Oh, yeah. That's what Geraldo exposed. When he did that, the John Lennon reached out and said, can we help somehow? So John Lennon and Yoko put on the concert, which was going to be, they thought they'd get, 10,000 people to go into Madison Square Garden or somewhere. They ended up doing like 3 or 4 shows, lots of money, lots of attention. And some of that money got given to some of the local, what we'll call agencies.
I never knew that. I never knew John and Yoko did something like that. I'm a huge Beatles fan, huge John fan, and did not know that story.
A young fellow who became the senior vice president of news for ABC was started on the nonprofit that was there to funnel the money. That guy is still around, still friends of Venture. Really? And it's just that kind of environment where helpers just have to go help somebody like yourself, like my
you know it exactly. We don't have a choice. We don't have a choice, man.
You can't turn it off, right? So So anyway, that money that gave Venture the ability to start and build, buy a first home. That home has now become 25 homes over 50 years, the group homes. Some are 1 or 2 people. The biggest one is 24, the highest level of people that Venture services. So they have the stop and shop jobs. They have, lots of them have jobs like in golf courses and so on and so forth. That's where Venture Foundation comes in, because along the way, about 10 years in, they were concerned that the federal government was starting to fund this with Medicaid. Problem number 1, 2, 3, and 4, obviously, because Medicaid is the one that is most abused today, and it's the one they're looking to cut literally in Congress this week. So as that evolved, the parents they were so thankful, they kept their interest financially and work-wise, and the foundations took over to start to raise funds. We have raised a lot of money over the years. We are here to do 3 things in essence, our bylaws. 1, to fund unfunded programs. What would be an unfunded program? An equestrian center. We give $500,000 to help build an equestrian center up in Stony Point in Rockland, and because Camp Venture or Venture Together has no ability to raise money. They're entirely funded by state and federal, so they can't do those things. There'd be no horseback riding. Right. We've rebuilt pools. We've done so many different things that are unfunded concepts. So that's number 1. Number 2, we're here to publicize the good works of Venture. So thank you for having us on the show today. It's one of my responsibilities is to do that. And 3 is to actually own real estate, because they thought that the government would then take houses that were donated by, testamentary will or trust or something, that the government would say, no, you own that house. We're going to reduce the money we give you. And that's the battle evermore with government funding or subsidies, that if we have people who pass away and they want the staff to be given raises, or not my staff, but Venture Together staff, be given big raises and big, money, subsidy. Conceptually, if they were to do that legally, Medicaid or the government has the responsibility to reduce the amount of stipends that they give for those very people, so it balances out. It's like saying $15 an hour ends up being more than, therefore you have to reduce it because you're getting money from an alternate source. So wow. It's so sad. It's so sad.
It's funny though. Sorry, not funny like to laugh at, but to me, like we should be paying these direct care workers, much more than the 15. We don't have the time to go into it with you and I today, but just the fact that, or maybe we will go into some of it. It blows my mind. And we own an employee benefits agency, Vanguard Benefits, so we're in these conversations with nonprofit leaders on a consistent basis. And as you probably know, nonprofit organizations, and many of our listeners know, pay a higher rate towards employees' benefits because they're paying these people at such a low rate, and that's based on what comes back from the government and what funding sources and all that. But I know organizations would rather pay these people much higher rates of pay. Yes, benefits are important, and I know it because that's my business. We talk about it all the time. But to pay somebody who are on the front lines, taking care of somebody's family member, such a low wage, it doesn't make sense, Bill, right? Tell me about what you.
Well, real simply, again, this is not my employees. These are the DSPs, they call them, direct service professionals for Camp Venture, for Venture Together, for example. But they don't get $15 an hour. Most of them are below that.
Oh, no kidding.
There is no rule that applies to them in particular. Exactly what you're saying. There is no rule that says you have to meet that minimum wage. They're excluded from the $15 minimum. And yes, there's been politicians and marches and a lot of hoo-ha over the last 4 or 5 years, and they still do it. And the bigger agencies like ARC or ARCA, as we call it now, Giovanni in Rockland anyway, they spend a lot of time in Washington and Albany trying to make something happen. So no, they don't get paid even minimum, what we call minimum. And even if you did, to be able to do that kind of work and do it for really not even subsistence money is crazy.
No, it is crazy, and we're gonna go to break in a minute or two here. But the thing about it is, it's crazy because these are people who are on the front lines that are. I'll give you a quick example. We have a client. We were away together at a fundraising event, and one of the employees mentioned that she was physically injured at the group home. Let's just say it was on a Tuesday, because I've been telling the story that way, that it was on a Tuesday. So that's what I remember. It happened on a Tuesday.
It works.
But she came back to work on Wednesday and went back to work and back to supporting the participants, the consumers, the people who are living in the home. And that's that. I'm not saying that, well, what am I saying? This is not the way we should be treating folks. They should be paid a good living wage because they're doing very important special work. Anyway, I could get up on my soapbox, which I do. I tend to do 3 or 4 times a show. So we'll probably see it back again. But for now, we're going to put it aside because there's a lot to cover. So really, it's 3 pieces. It's the unfunded programs, it's publicizing, and then it's owning real estate. So when you talk that way, and we're going to go to break in a second here, when you say that owning real estate, you're actually talking, because I'm hearing Venture Camp, I'm hearing the Venture Foundation. You lead the Venture Foundation. That's your organization, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. All right. So
we support venture. Their unfunded programs is what we support.
Got it. All right. We're going to get deeper into understanding the mechanics of all that when we come back. Bill Schul is here, the organization's Venture Foundation. Again, shout out to Mike Staker for making this connection. If it wasn't for my network, I don't have anything. I just made that song up. We'll be right back. Philanthropy and Focus.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargeman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
So that's what your job is. Your job is to cut through the static. My job is to try to entertain you, educate you, and I got a huge mug of coffee. It's the Mental Health Association in Nassau County. Shout out to Jeff McQueen. I got a t-shirt and I got this big old mug, which is going to be an ice cream mug eventually. But right now, today, it's a coffee mug. But I had lunch with Jeff McQueen and my friend Yolanda Rabano Gross a couple weeks ago. I will tell you this, man. We were at the Capitol Grill, a place here on Long Island. And I think they have more than one Capitol Grill, but the one I was at was on Long Island. And I don't know what we were going to order, but the waitress told us that they have the best burger on Long Island, and then that was it. So we all had the burger, and I will tell you, there was nothing left on my plate. It was a phenomenal burger. I do another show called the Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. So we talk a lot about vegetarianism and veganism and things. I was not one that day. Although, I am going to attempt to do some of that to be better for the animals. Anyway, this mug came from there. You guys know mental health. The conversation is critically important to me. It is like neck and neck. How do we serve our individuals with IDD, and how do we address the mental health conversation? Sometimes these conversations, they cross together and they're involved together. But you've heard me say it. I can't believe it. I said I put the soapbox away, but here it comes. We must improve the way we have this conversation around mental health in this country. on this planet. We must. It is critically important. If the last 3 years, I was saying this recently, just last night, if the last 3 years has taught us anything, I believe that everyone has, experiences different levels of mental health challenges. And I call them challenges because we all have challenges in life and we need support at different times. And we must have that compassionate conversation. Anyway, that's what happens with a coffee mug. A coffee mug makes me tell an entire story about mental health. Jeff McQueen, I'm glad you gave me the mug. See what happens. All right, Bill Schuler's here. Let's get back to this particular story, Tommy D. Try to focus, PHOCUS, on what we're doing right here, right now. Bill, I'm just like, sounds like there's this very intricate relationship going on between the organizations, and your specific organization has these multi-pronged responsibilities and priorities. So I'd love to see if you could, first of all, actually, before we do that, I don't understand. I don't even think we hit upon this. How did you, what was your exposure point and your background that got you to this level with the organization, if you could?
As that whole thing evolved into what has become Venture Together, or an agency in lots of them. I coached a lot of sports. I coached 30 teams in 20 years on 5 different sports, on Long Island and up in Rockland. And along the way, came across a young girl. And my daughter played a high-level softball. The girl was on a rec team, and she was oddly uncoordinated. It just incongruous. It seemed she seemed just strangely uncoordinated. I asked the mother what was the story, and she pointed to her 2 other children who were sitting in the stands, and that became my road into autism and what it meant to be a parent. Well, not personally, but I was running a huge soccer organization. We had some extra money, and I said, what happens to the kids who have IDD or an IDD population, or whatever population, doesn't matter, disability in any form?
Yeah.
What do they do for sports? Because I ran so many, we saw none. So I started a thing called Buddy Ball Sports. And Buddy Ball Sports was a baby little program. The first day, rainy, cold day in November. I'm still wearing shorts. I had canceled soccer because it was such a crappy day. 85 kids showed up.
Really?
I said, where the hell? Well,
Yeah.
how did I not know this? And where the hell have you been hiding?
And how did they find you? How many years
We
ago?
advertised. We advertised. Again, I was a very, very large, we had 2,500 kids in the soccer program. So we were a big footprint. Big footprint. And they showed up and they said at the end, so I did what I do. You give them uniforms, you break them into groups and say ages and sizes and all that stuff, and still didn't know much about the industry. That became, what are you going to do next?
Yeah.
Well, I do CYO, so basketball. So we did basketball, then we did tennis, then we did.
Yeah.
We just kept heading to the sports programs because, and shockingly, sometimes their ability to hit a basket from like plus 3-point range was beyond anybody I ever saw. So the normalcy, as you've said before, find what you're good at.
Yep.
And to this day, they'll run adult games of that, and some guys will plant themselves 37 feet from the basket, waiting for that shot.
No kidding, because they just can rain from there. They just could. Steph Curry.
Yes, sir. Exactly. So a local politician, I was introduced. I wanted to start the program, and he happened to be the longest running legislator in New York State history, 45 years, I believe. John Murphy, well known up here, and he was the president of Camp Venture. And so he said, you should hook up with us.
Yeah.
So I joined the Venture Foundation board, and I mostly doing events and athletic stuff, that kind of thing. And eventually, after about 12 or 13 years, they came to me and said, we really need you to replace a gal that had been one of the original ED for Venture for Foundation. And I joined about almost 9 years ago. So that's how I got here.
I love that. So look, I got to give a quick shout out to a friend of mine, Christine Fitzpatrick. I don't know if you ever run into Christine. She runs the League of Yes down here, which is a baseball, softball league. Eisenhower Park. I know you know Eisenhower Park.
I certainly do.
And certainly, like she also has a hookup out on Suffolk, I believe. But we in the Lindy Lou Foundation have supported some of the work they've done. You call this Betty Ball Sports, and it's funny. I'm involved with Best Buddies. I sit on the New York City advisory board for Best Buddies in New York. So, you're familiar with Best Buddies International, right?
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
These, if I may, these things. So I don't do Buddy Bowl anymore. When I got to Venture, I shifted my thing there. But Buddy Bowl still runs. It's part of the Orange OMM Soccer in which I was the president of for 7 or 8 years. All that complexity ends up with just helping kids. Kids.
Right. Yeah.
So in any event, when I got in with John Murphy and so on and so forth, we do this, but it takes it. I mean, I don't love the origin of this, but it does take a village. I mean, it really does. And unfortunately, this is a part of the world that the village wasn't paying any attention to. So the kids that get to play sports, swimming, I don't care what you do. It could be tiddlywinks, it could be chess, dances, whatever you want. But they should have the same exact opportunities.
Right. Well, it's accessibility, isn't it, Bill? I mean, it's what I said up front. I just think it's accessibility. And you go back, your story, which is, look, it's a tragic story, Willowbrook, but it's one of the ones we can look back to as, I would say, it was a transitional situation, right? We had that expose that Vicky Schneps and a small team of folks and obviously Geraldo had uncovered. I mean, Geraldo was not Geraldo. He was still Geraldo Rivera, but he was like not who we know him to be 50 years ago, right? I mean,
right.
That was, I'd have to guess that was one of the things that probably put him on the map, but it was that expo, right?
Interestingly, the first show that he did was not for 2020 national. It was for 2020 in New York only.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
And then the national picked it up, and that's when the pixie dust happened.
Sure, and it became.
And he's still involved. He was around for our 40th. He was around for our 50th. The guy who started that profit was called. We want to shout out. Here's one, Paul Dolan, who was the senior VP of news, is still involved in that in other parts of the country.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's, but again, where did I write it down? It was something about how you can't stop people like us from getting involved and helping out, because that's what it is. I mean, like sometimes I'll say sometimes it's to my own detriment that I'm focused more on this work than I'm focused on my business, but I think it's all the same, honestly. When I'm out and I'm supporting people, they understand that, I'm in the business community as well, and it all sort of helps. It's not, I don't go out to network necessarily to grow my business. I go out and do days of service and help out nonprofits, and our business continues to grow. So must be doing something right. I'm planting the right seeds, right?
Well, if I could, I would just, the phrase I was going to use before, I was honored early on by Venture, and you stand in front of 400 people and everybody's going, yay, that's great. Yeah. And it's like, I'm saying, but you all can do this too. Like, I'm not a magician here. Go get involved. And what I told them when I spoke that night is that people think that this is a revolutionary topic, and it's not. It's an evolutionary topic. This all should have evolved on its own, in its own way. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that Long Island, Michigan, Indiana, Alaska, people are doing the same things. I know this. I don't have to wonder about it. I know that there's good hearts around and active people. So we happen to be just part of a bigger group, I believe.
Yeah, I think, and listen, you know what? I had a few weeks ago, I had Stephen Chasman, who's the executive director of Long Island Coalition of Alcoholism and Drug Dependency, because again, there's these things that I'm really pissed off about and that I'm really trying to make an impact. And one is this conversation around mental illness, and it's other thing too, Bill. I don't know if it's not exactly relevant to our topic, although with your experience and all hanging out and spending time and educating these young people, it's important to bring up anyway, is this fentanyl crisis that we're dealing with in this country and the scary stuff that's all about. So like, this is one of my hills I've decided to get up on and start yelling about, because we need to have these conversations. But when Steve Chasman was on the show, he kept saying, I know if he said it twice, he said it 3 times. He said, look, if you want to support a nonprofit, it doesn't have to be us. He goes, if you want to volunteer for a nonprofit, it doesn't have to be us. It'd be great if it is, but it doesn't have to be. His point was, get out there. My point is, get out there, do your day of service. Bill Schul's point, standing in front of a room full of 400 people, is, I'm no hero. Not that we're not heroes, but you know what I mean, Bill. Most leaders and nonprofits go, it ain't about me, man. It's about the others in the organization. It's about my volunteers. It's about my board, right? That's what I hear so many times, and it's about a challenge to say, get out there. You want to do a day of service a month, you want to do a day of service a quarter, you just want to get out there, whatever. I've taken my sons, and this is not to say like we're so great, but I took my sons and we painted the basement at the Waterfront Center. I was asked the Waterfront Center up in Oyster Bay, not too far from where I am here on Long Island. And my boys love it. My 8-year-old is always like, when are we going to do another day of service? You know what that does to me, Bill? When are we going to do another day of service? I'm like, what? It's not like, when am I going to see the Mario movie? And they tell me it's not Mario, it's Mario, but I think it's Mario, but I'm not real sure. I gotta text somebody and ask them how to say it. How would you say it? The Super Mario Brothers?
I would say Mario because that's how, and I like
That's
lots
how-
of Italian friends, and that's nice.
That's
But
how I
it's
grew
Mario.
up. Well, I got a bunch of Italian guys in the neighborhood that tell me it's Mario, and I go, all right, whatever. So anyway,
Real quick, the one of my first buddies when I did buddy ball was my 8-year-old daughter.
oh my God, love it.
And at the table that night, my wife said, "How was buddy ball?" My daughter said, "It was great."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was there, and it's pretty cacophonous. There's crazy going around. And I had assigned her to 2 girls and said, "You just stay with them," a 14 and 15-year-old. I said, "Well, why was this so great?" I didn't. She said, "Well, what'd you do with those 2?" She goes, "Well, they rolled me down the hill." It was a hill there. I'm like, okay. And then what? So I went back to the top. And then they rolled me down the hill again. Okay. And then what'd you do? Well, then we did the cloud game. You know, it looks like a giraffe, looks like a lion, looks like a.
Yeah.
And then I got the goosebumps came, and I got it.
I feel
Where was the value here? The value prop wasn't to the 2 girls that had someone helping them. The value prop was to my daughter.
Yeah.
As
I'll tell you, man, I've said it sometimes. I know I've said it live on this show, and it's a little bit, the irony of the whole thing for me is it's a little bit selfish what I do. Like all the work I do, I feel good.
Yeah.
I feel great about it, man. I like feeling good versus not feeling good. So I've done like this a Monday or Tuesday. I realize I've woken up and, you know, I'm a little low on energy and a little low on positivity. And I go volunteer a little bit for an hour or so at a pantry in my neighborhood. I pop by. One day I wasn't even gonna volunteer, but I stopped by and I brought donuts and like a box of Joe for the volunteers. And that made me feel good because I wanted to appreciate them. I couldn't stick around all day, but I could make that impact. And so I don't know, maybe it's selflessly selfish. Maybe that's a topic. Maybe I got something there.
Sounds like a song.
I'll make one up. I'll sing it. Let's go right to a break. We'll be right back. Bill and Tommy in the attic.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Phocus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has, right? That's Margaret Mead. I think I got most of the words right. And I think you need to take that to heart. You can make an impact. You can make change in the world. I say, I this little thing I say, on this coffee mug that my friend Dara had got me, says, no big deal, just changing the world, right? With a little Tommy D figure on the back. But that's what I say that tongue in cheek because it is a big deal. everything you do, any volunteerism you do is a big deal, and you can change the world. And if you have an idea, like these moms, these mama bears, these mother bears had, I mean, many organizations that serve our population, the IDD population, started out as family members who were looking for programming that wasn't there 40 or 50 years ago, Bill, right? Like I find a lot of these organizations that now have 20, 30, 40 group homes, started out as programming because they needed to find something for their children to be involved with. Those organizations that have day have programs started out as a small unit of parents that were looking to make a change. So anyone, I put it to you now, if you want to do something, just do me a favor, get out there and do it. It's not going to go perfect. I promise you that, but get out there, try something, because once you try, then you find out, what can I do with this? How can I change it? Bill, let's get back into it. Let's talk about programming. Let's talk about, pools. And you said you support the equine therapy program. The foundation does. Let's go into that, please, and tell me some stories.
Sure. What I'll tell you is that there was no equestrian center. We built an equestrian center. There now are, I think, 7 horses in there. They do riding with, and it's one of those things. You and I chatted before about what is good, what is physical activity is positive for people in the IDDN world. And let me tell you, jumping jacks is the one I told you first, but horseback riding is another.
Oh, yeah.
It's the motion of the animal, and it really actually has a physiological impact, a positive one, which is why else would we build an equestrian center? So that's one of our ideas. So our camp, the Ventures camp, it's still called Camp Venture, is up in northern Stony Point, northern Rockland and Stony Point, and it's on land that is sort of granted to us, granted to Venture Together for use only to do this, not to make money, not to do any of this stuff. It's to run this camp. So up there, they have programs. They've got a select program. It helps take care of the horses, for example, and they do a variety of outdoorsy kinds of things. And it fits certain of the clientele, and it doesn't fit all the others. But next to it is this 4-acre or 5-acre pool area. There's stuff that was built there was built in 1910. That's the land the state gave to Venture, and the pool walls were almost 3 feet thick. So but they hadn't been touched. So we built a second pool, which were very much more modern, skinny walls next to it. And those things have been sitting like that for 30 years, 25, 30 years. And you know what happens. It just gets completely degraded. Playground was put in by Saturn car company, which doesn't exist anymore. That's how old everything is. So we took a bunch of money that we had been saving over the years from generous supporters, and we decided the Venture gave us the right to be the person in between to go ahead and design, build, and implement the brand new pools. If you saw that, you can see it. Actually, it's on. We have a video up on our website, which is venturefoundation.org. And if you go there, you can actually see the video of the way the camp looks today. And you'd think you were in a island resort. That's how pretty the pool is. It's really gorgeous.
How long is the trip from Long Island? Let's assume Nassau County, because Nassau County, for me to get up to Stony Point for a visit.
Well, again, coming from Limerick and still visiting the island regularly, I know this trip all too well. I did it for 3 years before I moved up here.
Did you really? You would travel?
I went from Limerick to Chestnut Ridge, New Jersey, which is right on the border of Rockland.
Okay.
Every day. There's no part of any of the roads up here that I don't know.
Yeah.
And they're all terrible. Anyway, so what would it take you? Probably an hour.
At
the right time. So just think of it this way. It's 25 minutes or so from the GW.
Oh, is that all? Okay. Yeah.
From the Tappan Zee, you mean it's 25 minutes from the Tappan Zee.
Got it. Yeah. And again, like you said, which I think is great, we go to the Poconos a lot. We, my wife and the kids and now the new dog Cheeto. But we go up to the Poconos, and like anything else, man, leaving this island it depends on the time of day. I'm like, I would rather leave the house at 5 a.m. And then we'll figure out the rest of the day. We got the whole day in front of us, man. You want to crash out and sleep after that? That's fine. But to sit on that Cross Bronx Expressway, or to sit, I mean, I went up to the Poconos last week, and I came back because we brought horses. We brought the mini horses from Horseability to the Long Island Alzheimer's and Dementia Foundation. And I can't even tell you. I mean, just these mini horses, you can imagine, right? So you have them. So I'm coming up to Stony Point. But here's the thing. I'm coming back, and this is it's 110 miles door to door, okay? This is the first 70 miles cruising, baby, coming back from the Poconos, right? And as I get closer and closer to this island, forget about it. It was like an hour and a half to get over the bridge, and it was just a nightmare because I didn't leave at 5 from Poconos. I left at 5:45 a.m. So that window, windows, we know about windows and when you got to get in and get out. And it was forget about it. But that's my plight.
Just for commonality, because we have an awful lot of commonality. The first time that my wife and I used to go camping in the Poconos,
yeah,
we were coming back through and had the same experience. It was great until, and we got to Nanuet,
yeah,
and I was like, if we lived up here, we'd be home already.
That's
That's one of the reasons we moved up here.
Yeah,
Move on.
but when we remember when it was Superstorm Sandy and the island got hit and there was no gas, we couldn't get, fuel. And it was just like we literally are like, if there ever was anything like for real, like we're like stranded out here on this island. Anyway, I've been here my whole life, 45 years. And I don't think until my youngest, I do say this, I say the year my youngest starts high school is like that September is the same day the house goes on the market. Like I can get the heck off of this island, but who knows what'll happen? We make plans and God laughs, they say, right? Or the universe laughs at us. So I want to hear so that's the equestrian. Let's go.
So if I could on the pool, just to finish that out. So the pool and the whole thing we built is for the benefit of the people that attend the summer camp that Venture started with and still maintains. And it's a half NT, half IDD population. They tend to be kids between the ages of 5 and 14 or so, 15. It's a very friendly, gentle pool. And we do have mini horses, and I know, and they're not ponies, they're mini horses, and they've got goats and all that other stuff. They got a little menagerie. So there's a whole bunch that goes on there, and we run events up there. So the pool and that whole process, there's a lot of acres. There's 7 pavilions. I have a pavilion that sits 200 people. So we run family reunions up there because it's very countrified. It's actually right near the Stony Point Little League, as a matter of fact. Okay. So that's what the pool, how that ends up. Other things that we do to raise funds, though, we do events as well. We exist for the enormous generosity of some of our parents and some of them not parents. We've gotten multi-$1,000 gifts. I've gotten a couple of gifts that top 100,000, and that's what helps us to be able to even start to afford this. We didn't afford all of what we just spent, so we're on a fundraising mission to sort of feed back into the program so that we can continue to build. I want to build a wiffle ball field. There's other things I want to do. An adaptive fitness trail. There's a list of things, and all this is stuff that Venture together has need for, wants us to do, or we wouldn't do it because we don't own the land, right? It's their property, so they agree, and we go ahead and we fund it.
So let's just explain that again, because I don't know if it might be confusing to people. So the Venture Foundation exists as a fundraising mechanism. Correct me if I'm wrong in any way in what I just said.
Totally correct.
Okay. So that's it. So but the programs are run by Camp Venture Together. That's their thing, right? And
correct.
Okay. So in that sense, have you thought about, again, I don't know the geography up there. I don't know what big corps are up there and stuff like that. But I have to assume, I take from this conversation I've had for the last 40 minutes that you're a networker, man. You know how to connect with people. You know how to schmooze, if you will. That's one of my favorite books, everybody. If you haven't read it, it's called Mr. Schmooze. It's about 80 pages long. And anybody who knows me in the real world would say, wow, that Tommy D sort of sounds like they wrote this book about you. But I wonder about like that yourself, building community, I guess is another way to say it. Bill, talk about that. Are there certain people, even if you want to shout out in community up that way, or are there certain companies on the other side of things that would be great connections for you as you look forward, as from a relationship perspective?
Well, there certainly are. There's a community of people who have helped us get this far, and Mike Steger, for example, smaller professional agencies like his, there's a bunch of them that we have that stand by us all the time. Almost anything we would ask them of. It's a little guy, a little ice company. It's Abbey Ice. It's just an ice production company. He's been with us for all of our years, and we have people. They have nothing to do with us. They don't. Everybody didn't care. It's just that. Boards used to be made up of those kind of people. Now we look for boards that are made up of people who actually have more access to funds and can help us raise money. There's big corporations up here, like there are everywhere. But getting into Verizon, for example, and getting Verizon, they used to be a little bit easier to work with to get funding from for a company like that. And they've been very generous over the years to us. TD Bank, Key Bank,
Yeah.
all those kinds of things that where we have our services are provided is a natural symbiotic, right, relationship.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
our insurance services, by the way, so by the way, just to real quick, venture together, a lot of the agencies have their fundraising built into the agency itself.
Right.
ARC is that way, and Giovanni, those are the two up by me. The ARC is everywhere. That's how they do it. Venture wasn't built that way.
Mhm.
Venture was built as two separate entities.
Right.
Foundation came afterwards and was connected to and services and provides for the unfunded programs and so on. But we have a separate board, separate EIN. We vote on it.
It's two entities. But again, your mission is these three pillars, if I could, right? Funding unfunded programs of the other organization, publicizing the good work, and owning real estate, right? Those three.
Exactly. That's
So but we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about this one piece that we didn't spend much time on, owning of the real estate. So I'd love to understand what that looks like, and if that puts you as an organization, if you don't mind, in a position for other acquisitions of real estate. And is that a focus? You know, is it, I know you say owning real estate, but is there a goal to get more, if you want to talk about that? And then I'd like to talk about sort of upcoming events going into June and what's happening, and how else we can help. How's that sound?
Terrific.
All right, we'll be right back. Philanthropy and Focus.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be Frank About Health to advocate for all of us.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
And we're back. Look, I think in life we got to make it better for the next generation, and Bill said earlier in the program here about this should be an evolutionary topic, but something was hitting me because you and I spoke, Bill, right before the show. And you mentioned your own children, and I mentioned, my youngest, and certainly it's not lost on my other three, this responsibility, I'll call it, to give service and be involved. Some people, we talk a lot in our space about time, treasure, talent. Some people can write those big checks, some people can write smaller checks, some people can invest time, some people can be the volunteers, whether that be a board member or volunteering in some other capacity. And some people can build a house. Some people got a big old mouth and they can run a show called Philanthropy and Focus and interview people on a weekly basis. Some people have that talent. And there's that sort of stuff. But I wonder, before we even jump into this real estate, if you want to focus on that a little bit and upcoming events, just the impact it's had on your own children, right? To see you in this work. Can you talk about that for a moment or two?
There's an awful lot of good words you just said. And I think there's nothing more fundamental. It's almost like I want to say this in it's a strange way, but faith or religion, I'll call it that. It's almost like that what faith and religion gives people, whatever it may be, whatever you follow, it gives you the hope to go on, that everything isn't going to be terrible and end. And the giving back part, what we do is we help people who can't help themselves.
Yeah.
Now, there's no other way to put that. If you have a baby, if you have someone who had an operation, or you have somebody who's at the end of life, all these things exist for opportunities for us to do something for someone who can't do it. So you can be the one that walks by and doesn't help. You could be the one that the woman trips on the walk, or the older guy can't shovel his walk. Whatever there's 100 examples.
Yeah.
But if you don't teach to kids in their youth, which is what some of the programs that I've run was putting together putting together two people, an able and a disabled person, to say you should help them. And I learned from that how much my kids got from it. Now, I don't really know what they think of it from me personally. I don't know. And mine are older than yours now, but I know what it's done for them. I see that, and you could see this in your own world. Look at the other people who give of themselves, family members, to other people. It's you're born, you're bred, nature, nurture. I'm not sure. But super important.
It's super important. We're creating the next generation. Remember that, everybody. So do your service. All right. So let's talk about this real estate piece, because I'm more curious about it than anything else, which is pretty much what the show is all about. My curiosity and helping tell stories. So, as a holder of the real estate, right? As a manager of the real estate, is there growth plans there or not really? Am I missing?
No. It was more fundamentally when we first were founded to say that the agency probably couldn't own the land, a house. Okay. It's called a Jersey Shore house, or a house right in our neighborhood. So what they would do is they would give it to Venture Foundation, and we would eventually turn that over to Venture in a different way, because it wasn't something that we don't have need for this stuff. We don't rent it. These are group homes for people, young men and women men and women, not young anymore. They live longer and longer. Live in the houses. So the real estate part was really there for a protection concept. That really we don't run real estate.
Got it. Perfect. All right, good. All right. So I know, certainly I was going to share the screen real quick, and this is always like my favorite time of year for a lot of reasons. I am not a very good golfer. I love to get out there and hack the ball. Any time when I don't go through a dozen golf balls on a golf course that I've left there and donated, that's a pretty good day for me. So I have to guess, so sir, probably with all the sports and stuff you're involved with, you're a golfer?
I am a golfer. I've done most every kind of golf thing. I owned an indoor golf place. How's that?
Oh, really?
Called the World Trade Country Club. It was next door to the Bankers Trust Plaza in downtown Manhattan, and the World Trade right there, nestled. So yeah, golf is a favorite of mine. I played a lot of the courses out by you. So yeah, this tournament is a memorial tournament that was founded for the original founder, Kathy Lukens, and the Lukens family were the ones that really deserve the shout out. They did so much work, so much imagination and creativity, but most of all, just sticking with something. It's impossible not to appreciate just how much they believed in this. They had a son that needed care, and they fundamentally built all this. So we just now do it. We've lost a lot of our originals, so we make it a memorial golf tournament. We do it this year. It's at the New York Country Club. It's beautiful up there, gorgeous, overlooks the Hudson Valley, fabulous looking place. Our fees are much more reasonable than you'd find
it's low. I mean, gang, look, it's $275 a golfer, $1,000 foursome. I gotta be honest, if you don't know much about golf outings, you don't find $1,000 foursomes. That's certainly not down here on Long Island. I mean, I sit on the board of the Bayside Business Association, and we got a pretty low fee there, but we play at Clearview. We play with a public course, a New York City course, American golf, but but you don't see, for the most part, where you drop a foul and you get four guys out to play golf. That's and the meal and the whole thing. So that's a home run. So I got to figure out how to get up there myself and get involved with you guys.
We'll certainly let you know about it. We do other events. We're doing we're doing a Mystic event. Actually, one of the most popular mystics that was out there, Lynn Van Grotten. She passed away. She lives on Long Island. She just passed away. She was supposed to do it. We've replaced it with her partner. So we do things like that people are interested in. Things that if you want to go spend money on something, you want to have a bartender challenge, we'll run it. And you can drink your beer, and then we get our vig out of that. So mostly we do big events. So we do the Rockland Autism Symposium, which is one of the bigger ones. We've now switched mostly. It's in October. We bring together some of the about a third of the science guys and a third of the social people. So what we do is we bring in people that are specific to the science part. The Autism Science Foundation is one of our helpers there, and then we bring in stuff about how do you get services, how do you find things like Buddy Ball, how do you form a life for your child. Your child's 21. You're about to get out of the school program, and now you're going to have life happen to you. So now what do we do? And the schools, I don't think they do as good of a job, and I don't think the government does much of a job at all. So they need guidance. So the Autism Symposium, we host as many as 600 people.
Is there a website to find out about the symposium?
RocklandAutismSymposium.com.
All right, so we'll get that out there for everybody. Rockland, okay, comes up as soon as I typed in Rockland Autism.
Yes, sir.
Okay, got it. October. Okay, so let me tell one quick story, and then we gotta head out. So you talk about the mystics. So I mentioned Bayside, Queens, and I'll shout out to Bourbon Street, our friends at Bourbon Street. And you know how sometimes there's like a flyer in the men's room about like upcoming events, right? I did not do this. I'm just telling you what I read, because I really would not do this because it was graffiti. But there was a flyer up, right? And it was about an upcoming psychic that was going to be there. It was like Psychic and Steaks or whatever. I'm making up the name of it, right? So somebody who had some wit wrote on there, "Do you think she knows I won't be there? Like at the event?" I go, "That's great. I love it. I love that." I love anything like that. That was just so.
Having lived on Bell Boulevard in right off of Union Turnpike, so I know Bayside.
More connected than we probably know a lot of the same.
There's more. There's more. Holy Cross High School.
All right. Okay. So I'm a Chaminade guy. My friend,
there you go.
Frank Orzo, graduated Holy Cross in the 60s. So I think he certainly would beat you through there, was there for you. But my business partner, Ed Probst, is St. Francis Prep guy. Ed's the president of the Bayside Business Association. I've been on the board for a bunch of years. Anyway, we got a lot in common. We'll have to have another meeting without anybody listening. Just to it might be boring them. All right, Bill Schul, thanks for being here. Shout out to the organization. Shout out how we can get in touch. Just give me the website and all that stuff real quick too.
Not a problem. We are located you can find us at venturefoundation.org, where our phones, they're on the website. Everything's on the website, venturefoundation.org. Every way you need to get a hold of us is there. All of our events are posted. We stay pretty common and current with it. We have lots of ways that you can help us. You can donate directly. You can donate with testaments and trusts, and we have sharing with your employer. All those things, they're all up on the website. It tells a story of people who care and are trying to help.
I love it. I gotta send out Mike Steger some love and appreciation for making this connection. Bill, I think we're gonna be friends for sure. Gosh, we're just getting warmed up. Gang, listen, pay attention to your nonprofits in your community. You don't have to go over the top like a nonprofit sector connector would, but just get involved, make an impact. That's what we're here. We're here for a limited amount of time. Be compassionate, make an impact, make the world a better place. That's what I'm trying to do. Bill, thank you for being here. Thank you for your friendship. Make it a great day. All right.
Tommy, I appreciate it. And thanks for the opportunity.
Got it. Take care, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye.